can I get your thoughts first of all, Chip, on this story, which has been very big over the weekend? The leak of that US intelligence on Russian operations had a lot of coverage, a lot of discussion. But I wonder what your thoughts are on that, its significance, and how worrying it is.
Well, the first thing is that, America is quite leaky. And I was in America when the WikiLeaks happened. And you have to remember, I think, at the end of the day, what Bob Gates said, that they're still the indispensable nation. And people come to America not because they trust them, not because they particularly fear them, but because they need them. And that's still the case. Now, it will upset people, and it's already upset the Ukrainians, both at the political and military level, because you want to conceal your vulnerabilities before you want to do a counterattack. And the operational impact, of course, is that Ukraine may have to alter some of its plans. But what it really shows you is the reach of the American intelligence agencies, the fact that it's deeply penetrated the Russian security services. I think largely they're both from human intelligence, which is run by the CIA, by their signals intelligence, the SIGINT, run by the National Security Agency. But more particularly in this case, and which is the thing they probably wouldn't have wanted to leak, is the role of the National Reconnaissance Office and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and really how those two together bring together satellite space power and machine learning and artificial intelligence to
Yes.
provide probably targeting information to the Ukrainians. And that is something we actually saw in what is regarded as the first artificial intelligence war, which was Operation Guardians of the Wall by the Israelis in Gaza in May 21.
Is it surprising, Chip, at all that we see evidence here of the Americans spying on friendly powers, on allies? I mean, South Korea, just one of them. Or is that really considered to be par for the course?
No, I think that's par for the course. It's, again, going back to the WikiLeaks, I remember at the time Angela Merkel was one of the ones who came out of the sort of diplomatic telegrams out of that. So, you need to have an all-informed opinion about the world. So, yes, people do spy on each other. And the other element, of course, which was mentioned within this, is liaison partners. And that could have been both Secret Intelligence Service or British Security Service or the wider Five Eyes. So they are sort of implicated in some of these leaks. But again, people need to understand the scale of this. I mean, there are over 1.3 million people in America who hold top secret clearances. And then there are a number of special access programs, and some of the caveats on the top of the documents that I've seen seem to suggest that some of these were special access programs, of which there are hundreds of those. And the joke in America and the intelligence community, of which there are 18 different agencies, is that the only person who knows all the special access programs is God.
When we think about spying, I mean, certainly people like me, memory goes back to the days of the Cold War, and you have on the one side the America and the Western powers. You've got the Soviet bloc on the other. Obviously, in this sense, a superpower. But now, I guess that's no longer true, is it? Ukraine has vastly greater resources when it comes to intelligence gathering, Chip, at its disposal in the form of America and the advanced NATO powers compared to Russia.
Yeah, it does. But like all these things, it's how you fuse the intelligence fusion to give you the real-time data that you really need for targeting. And that's, I think, the strength of the Ukrainians. A lot more will come out of this after the war is over about how that was managed. But that's one of the problems, I think, with some of the data which is linked, because I do think it's real, even if some of it was altered. And that is, if you give some of the Ukrainian dispositions and troop concentrations, which it did, then that can give targeting data away to the Russians. They don't seem to be as agile as the Ukrainians, but that doesn't mean they're buffoons all the time.
Yeah, just the last one on this waited for counter-offensive from Ukraine. Had, interestingly, hearing from Ed Lucas earlier on. He was saying, look, if the Ukrainian counter-offensive is very successful, well, then you might see some weakening of Western resolve because there'd be worries about a nuclear response from Russia. On the other hand, if it was not at all successful, you might see weakening of Western resolve to bring the thing to a speedy end. What is your view on this counter-offensive, which has been called a make-or-break moment?
Well, I don't think it necessarily has to be a make or break moment. What I do think is that everyone is still signed up to the sovereignty of Ukraine for its 1991 boundaries. And that's what we should be worried about at the moment, not if the nuclear escalation is there or not from Russia. Now, that is not to say, as I've said a number of times, that you shouldn't be scenario gaming all these options for the future, because there is no sort of straight line strategy which leads you from A to B to C. So all those scenarios are in play, but we should take offense at the fact that Russia are still in Ukraine and those 4 oblasts and Crimea, not the fact that we should worry about what Russia are doing in the future.